I'm not here right now. Please leave a message after the beep.
We were best friends, grew up on the same street. You forgot about me. Won't you forget me? Since I've been partying life, seems like lately I've got to know your voicemail more than talking to you. You lost touch, but you never lost me. We were best friends, grew up on the same street. You forgot about me, why'd you forget me? We were best friends.
Kicking off this edition of the ODPH podcast, the song you just heard is BFFs. It's off the new EP, Call Me When You Get This. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ken M. I am the host of the ODPH podcast, and in studio with me is the lead singer of a band that is going to be playing May 23rd down at Galaxy Brewery. They have a huge show going on. They have a great new EP out, so we're going to talk to them about it. From the band Walking Distance, say hello to Gus.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Gus, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Gus, inform our listeners, where are you from? Give us a little background about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Long Island, New York, but I live in a very small town called Afton, New York at the moment. So, yeah. Lived in Long Island for the first 17 years of my life, and moved in 2003 in the middle of my senior year of high school, which was a little rough. I was a little bitter.
Okay.
After that, a little bitter.
A little teenage angst.
Yes, very. Because I've always felt that time, like that part of my life, just feels incomplete. I didn't get to finish what I started.
Okay.
And yeah, moved 2003 and finished up in Afton Central School, and then eventually went to BCC and Monroe Community College. Went to a lot of community colleges, and then eventually, let's fast forward to like around 2010, like 2008, 2010. I got into stand-up comedy.
Okay. So at this point, you've come up from Long Island. You're in the 607 area. You're kind of working your way around school and kind of finding your niche of what you want to do.
Yeah, it was trying to, I guess the theme in my life is always finding a belonging somewhere, like just finding my place in this weird world. And it took a while when I moved up here. It took a long time. I went to a few punk basement shows here and there. Our bass player Kevin Kober, I actually met him when I was 18.
Okay.
And when he was in the band All Immune, and that was the beginning. I feel like when I moved up here, where I saw him and his band play in a bar, and I saw just like the energy or felt the energy, and was like, I want to do that. I want to perform. I want to write songs. I want to make some type of impact. And then many years later, I re-met Kevin through a mutual friend, Mike Escott.
Okay.
I met Mike when I was doing stand-up comedy. I would do it at the Beagle Pub in Johnson City. And I met Mike through another friend of mine, John Van Heusen, who I did comedy with. And met Mike, then eventually found out that he played guitar. And I asked him to just get together, work on some songs maybe, And we went to the practice space that Walking Distance practices at now. And I had like a decent amount of stuff written already. And eventually Mike just said to me, you know what? There's something here. Let me talk to a few people. And Kevin Kober was one of them. And B-Joy Data was the other person. And B-Joy and Kevin knew Evan. I think that, or B-Joy knew Evan. And eventually we all got together and jammed together. And it felt right. It clicked. There was something there, you know. And we all, have similar musical influences and, bands that we listen to, like Hot War Music.
What would you describe, like, growing up you were into for music-wise, and, like, where are you at now with it?
So, I started music, it wasn't consistent right away.
Okay.
It was all over the place. It was Matchbox 20.
It was big at the time, and, nothing wrong with that.
I still have that CD, and I guess I'm not ashamed of it.
I do too, so bear no shame. I'm with you.
But then I think in middle school, I was getting to a lot of ska music, like Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish. There was a local ska punk band by the name of Edna Skullfish on Long Island that put out 2 great records, and eventually they broke up. And then got into like a band named Midtown, the Get Up Kids. Let's see. And then eventually it got to bands I listen to now, like Gaslight Anthem, Hot Water Music, Alkaline Trio. One of my all-time faves, Bruce Springsteen. He's my number one. So if we were gonna do like top 5, it'd probably be Bruce.
Okay.
2 would be Gaslight. 3 would be a Scottish pop rock band, Frightened Rabbit. 4 is a toss-up. 4 would probably be Dave Haas.
Okay.
Who's the lead singer of The Loved Ones. And 5 always switches around. 5 could be, I guess you could say Get Up Kids. Like bands that really made an impact.
So as you know, you're joining up with the band now with B-Joy, Evan McNamara, Kevin Kober. So you're really kind of seeing, okay, we're feeling something. There's something happening here with this band. Like it feels right, and this is where the direction you want to go with your music.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out the sound. We just have so many musical influences that it was just, you could listen on the demo. There's just a range from different genres. And I think I forget which songs they were, but something like the last songs that we were putting together before we recorded everything was, we all kind of looked at each other and was like, okay, maybe this is where we should go. Maybe this is the direction. It was like band Sam I Am.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were saying that it had that type of sound, Sam I Am sound, and we were kind of going in that direction, and that's where the direction went to in the second full length when we were working on songs for that.
So at this point, though, this is where you formed Kadima.
Yes.
Correct. Now,
Kadima.
Where did you get the name Kadima from?
Okay, so here's the story about Kadima. We were shooting around names through a group text, and I wish that group text, it's just so many names. Muscle Cars was definitely one that sticks out, that B-Joy loved. And and there were so many, I don't remember all of them. But Kadima came about, Kevin Kober and I were watching The Flash, the CW
right
show
on.
The Flash. And I don't remember what season. I don't know if it was at the end of season 1 or at the end of season 2. But the character Dr. Stein gave a toast at the end. And he goes, using the Hebrew word Kadima, which means moving forward, ... And Kevin and I both looked at each other and said, that sounds like a great band name.
Right. Okay.
After that, like that particular moment, I text Mike after that, and I was like, "How about Kadima?" And he's like, "I'm all about it." It just, I don't know, at that moment,
it just fits.
It fit, and I think we were just fed up. I think we were just at that particular time and that particular moment, we were just like, whatever.
Like, all right, this is good. Okay, fine, let's just go with it.
So yeah, we were Kadima, and then eventually after that, Mike moved. Mike left the band and moved to LA, but luckily, Rob Kucherik from 6 or 7, Autopilot Off. You had him on the podcast.
Yep, he's been a guest on the podcast before.
He's my big lovable bear. He joined the band. Mike was like, "Why don't you join the guys? And you want to do something musically, and just I think it would be a perfect fit." And he was right. It was a perfect fit. Everybody knew Rob. I knew Rob. Probably I met him at a Dave Haas show with Mike, and it just clicked. I like, this guy's rad. Like, I just, you fall in love with people when you first meet them, and Rob was one of those people. It's like, it just clicked, and Rob has taught me a lot since joining the band with structuring a song and timing in a song and not complicating, not putting too much in writing a song. And I've learned a lot. It's been a great experience.
So you've taken this influence that Rob is giving you, and you're applying it to the Kadima record.
Yeah.
And then from Kadima, it now transitions to Walking Distance.
Yeah, so we were at practice one day, and I think Evan McNamara, our lovely drummer, I think he brought it up. Maybe it's time that we change the name. And because Kadima kind of sounds like a, I guess, heavy metal hardcore band, and we weren't that. That's not really our sound. So,
how would you describe your sound?
Melodic punk. Melodic punk rock.
Okay.
I hate using the word emo.
Yeah,
emo.
Because there's such a
word.
stigma to it.
It is, and because I think any song could be emotional. Any song can give you some type of feeling.
Well, yeah, especially if you're writing with passion and you're writing, just about everything you're going through. Yeah, you want to have that emotional connection. So to have a cast with that, I mean, there's something when you say a song's emo that just leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
I hate using that word. But we'll just say melodic punk. So again, we went round 2 with figuring out a band name. And Evan mentioned Walking Distance. And he said, it's a name of a Twilight Zone episode. And because Ron Sterling's from Endicott?
He's from Binghamton, Endicott area.
Okay.
But he's more recognized for being from Binghamton. He is the creator of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. So, at first, not that I didn't like it, it didn't grab me right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and just looked at every episode name and tried to, I was tossing out other ideas and just nothing caught fire. And then eventually everyone liked Walking Distance. And, and I sat on it for a bit. And a guy my size, I sit on a lot of things. And I got one of those big asses. And the name got warm.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens like that.
Yeah. And then a bird hatched. But it made sense. It was just one of those names that clicked and it made sense. And just looking at it when we have flyers, and it looks good, too.
And it rings. And when you're talking about the bird hatching, it kind of led to whom it may concern.
Yeah.
Which was your EP out. That 10 songs came out in March of 2018, I believe.
Yes.
And so, I mean, how would you describe the reaction with that when that came out?
Hey, it got a great reaction, and I was very happy. I'm proud of those 10 songs. We started some of those songs with Mike, and then he left in I guess you could say in the middle of it, and then Rob came in and finished the second half of that album, and that album, it means a lot to me because I got out of my shell a bit with writing those songs. Those songs were inspired from like conversations I've had with other people, people who were going through something. And they were inspired from personal things going through my life. And I'm a person who struggles with mental health, and I battle with depression issues. And so I took the opportunity, with writing these songs to just be a little bit more honest, be a little bit more open, and not be afraid to express that other side of myself. And there's still, I haven't gotten to the finish line yet there's still more room to grow, and there's more work to do. And I think the EP, the new one, Call Me When You Get This, that just came out this week, is just more progress, just more honesty. And I hope I'm able to continue. There's a lot been going on with me. I lost someone close to me back on Christmas Eve, and been kind of dealing with, going through the motions with that. And so that on top of my daily battles with my own mental health, it's hopefully I can continue my story, and just think I use this band as an opportunity to just tell people whatever's going on, take the leap and take a risk and be fearless. And that's what I'm trying to do. And it's been a struggle at times, but hopefully I'm doing somewhat of a good job at it.
I think it's incredibly brave that you're, breaking that story down for us, and condolences on the loss that you just had.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, mental health is just something that is just, when it hits everybody in different ways, and just in dealing with it, and how to just be strong about it, and just, finding ways to cope and deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you've taken away and really flipped it to the music side and just really used that as a therapeutic way.
Yeah.
To deal with it. And like I said, I think it's extremely brave to do.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I figured out was I got a lot of stuff bottling up. So you can take all that energy, whether you want to call it negative energy or just, the sad energy, and you can channel it in a negative way, or you can do something creative and positive, like, creating music with 4 great people.
And that's awesome to see, too. And especially with those 4 said people, you're going to be playing a show Thursday, the 23rd of May?
Yes.
So why don't you break it down for us?
May 23rd at Galaxy Brewery. Walking Distance is playing with a phenomenal lineup with Tom Jolu, Second Suitor, and a great band from where I grew up, Long Island, New York, Iron Chic.
Right on.
If you haven't listened to any of these bands, run, don't walk. Go on Spotify. They're all there. Just do yourself a favor.
Well, if you go hit up the Walking Distance Facebook page, there is links for the event.
Yes.
And you can go there and you can find all the music for all the bands that are playing.
Yes.
But how exciting is this show going to be? I mean, this is the first time that you're playing out since the new album dropped.
Yeah. This show is personally meaningful for me because, growing up on Long Island, I missed out. I was born in 85, so I kind of missed out on being part of a cool music scene. I didn't start really going to shows until I guess when I was in high school.
Okay.
And so to play with a band from where I grew up from, it's just it means a lot, because one of the bucket list items with Walking Distance for me is to play on Long Island, in front of friends and family. Hopefully that happens one day. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm hopeful that it will happen.
Put that energy out in the universe, man. You never know.
Yes. Put it out there and see what happens. Like Ryback.
Yeah.
Reading The Secret.
I don't know if you want that kind of energy. But
Feed me more.
But with this show, I mean, there's definitely a lot of buzz going on with it, too. I mean, especially everybody's really excited about the EP coming out. And, I mean, I've heard it. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been listening to it every day, as I've been listening to the other album, too. So, I mean, the links to this show are on the Facebook page and also on your Instagram page for Walking Distance.
Yes.
So you can definitely check that out. But why don't we go segue to break here
Okay.
by talking about one of your older songs, The Fix. So give us a little backstory as we head out.
The Fix is one of my favorites. It's a song that Rob and I wrote together. We were at the practice space one night, just shooting around ideas, and it's funny. He said to me that night, he's like, "I love, songs that just come out of nowhere," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, those are great songs." And we're just sitting there talking, and he just starts strumming away on this simple tune, what became the beginning part of The Fix. And I just start singing off the top of my head the chorus. And we both were like, what is that? And we didn't want to let that spark burn out. So we were like, all right, we got something here. Let's work on that. And I went on my phone and just try to find things I was working on, and I found a verse I was working on one idea, and a verse I was working on a different idea, and I put those together, and we wrote that song. It felt like it probably took like an hour, because he started putting things did things on GarageBand.
Okay.
And just put together a bunch of samples, and we just had an outline, a foundation of that song, and then showed it to the guys, and then eventually came what it became on the album. And it's one of my favorites. I love playing it live.
So we're going to get into that. We're going to take a quick break. Next segment, we're going to be joined by Rich from the 3FN Podcast Network. Going to talk a little pro wrestling with Gus, and you're listening to Gus from Walking Distance on the ODPH.
Head spinning, can't get to sleep. What should I do tomorrow to get some relief? get some relief.
The Fix by Walking Distance here on the ODPH. We have a special edition talking a little pro wrestling now. We have Gus from Walking Distance in studio along with Rich from the 3FN Network, and he does do the 3FN on Wrestling podcast. You should definitely check it out. We have the links up on the OchoDuroParlayHour.com page. Gus, you have not been watching wrestling since WrestleMania, correct?
Because I like to have a normal high blood pressure, and I don't think I can call DirecTV about getting another remote because I've tossed my remote so many times watching Raw since WrestleMania. The Viking experience, that's all I got to say.
So, Rich, how would you describe the current state of the WWE?
The fucking Viking experience.
The current state. Well, here's the bad part. The bad part is that the wrestling, the in-ring work is good.
Yeah.
It's been fine. The storylines, they've gone to crap. Let's see. The only thing worth noting is, in my opinion, well, first of all, we have the Superstar shakeup that doesn't seem to end. So every week it just seems like, hey, let's just keep moving stuff around. And then when we can't explain that away, we'll do something called the wild card. And then that's a whole nother, conglomerate in its own.
So what is the wild card?
So
Yeah, I need translation on this.
This is how we broke down the wild card on 3FNW, because they really aren't specific about it. Originally started off as every week 3 people from the other show can be on the other show. So 3 SmackDown Live guys can be on Raw and vice versa. By the end of the show, it was up to 4.
Yeah.
So I figure by the end of the month, we'll be up to like no split, period, if it continues this way. Because now it just seems like they're moving people all willy-nilly after the Superstar shakeup was only supposed to be a 1-week thing, and it's gone on for literally a month now. I will give them credit in the shakeup that they tried to keep all the couples together.
Yeah,
that was one of their things, that they were trying to keep husbands and wives / people who are together, trying to keep the morale high, if you will.
Yeah, that was definitely
the morale's down, if you... even in that case, I'm less judgmental about a lot of stuff in the ring as I am about the storylines. Although, if you've been watching, the one shining light, obviously, is Bray Wyatt. And boy, does he's an amazing human being / character, and can continue to reinvent himself into some amazing things. So
yeah, his current thing of the Firefly Funhouse is literally been the best thing they have on both shows. Into
the Joker, pretty much.
Yeah.
I hate clowns.
Hey.
I have a fear of clowns, and
so doesn't Diesel from our show. And the best part about that is, right after it happened, I took the first clip I said and sent it right in our messenger. It was like, "How do you feel about this picture?"
Oh, I can only imagine. There's not enough natty daddies in the world to save him on that one.
Hashtag Big Natty Cool was not happy that day.
And just going into it, I mean, like Rich touched upon too, the Superstar shakeup didn't really have the impact when they've done like the Raw draft or the roster splits or whatever they've done in the past. It just kind of seemed, I don't know, anticlimactic.
Well, the one thing that they did do that I thought was effective was they kind of gave both parties equal footing. Like, you've traded one top star for another. So you traded AJ Styles to Raw for Roman Reigns to SmackDown. So you got the top guy from SmackDown to the top guy from Raw. And that's a fair trade. So I thought there was a lot of fair trading going on. Although they gutted the best tag team division in wrestling off of SmackDown and made, instead of having one great tag team division and one crappy one, they made 2 mediocre ones, which was that I'm still kind of confused about. The Andrade situation was interesting. They moved him to Raw, which I thought was a great thing for him because, he's going to get pushed one way or another. As Diesel pointed out in 3FNW episode this past week, he's getting that Charlotte Flair rub from the fact that they're together. And I was like, that's not, hey.
Yeah.
He's moving him back, and the reason being, when they stated it, was because they wanted a Latino presence on SmackDown when it moves to Fox. That's something Fox wanted. So already you're starting to see that Fox will be dictating what WWE does coming up in the very near future. I have no problem with that. The thing is, we did a report this past week, and I thought it was the most interesting thing going around the internet, and I give it some credence even, is that the most frustrated person in WWE isn't the Sasha Banks, and it's not the Revival. It's none of those people. It's not even Dean Ambrose, who's now gone to become John Moxley again. It's actually Triple H. Yeah, because now Triple H is sitting in a position where he's watching all of his children, if you will, the kids that he's so proud of from NXT, go on to the next level and be pretty much misused completely.
Yeah, just I mean the prime example, the Viking experience and the name change.
Well,
and,
the Viking Raiders now. Sorry, they changed the name again.
like I can't even keep track about that. Just how much they ruined Rowan Hansen and just now made him into.
It's Ivar and what was the other one? I think it's Eric and Ivar.
Yeah,
They changed the names?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's Ivar and I can't.
I think it's Eric and Ivar.
I think it's Eric and Ivar. I could be wrong, but definitely one of their names is Ivar now. Yes, I wish I was making that up. That was what went under the radar. I remember when it first broke, when the Viking experience and everybody's going nuts on the internet, and we literally the next podcast, I'm like, why is nobody talking about the fact that they named somebody Ivar? Like, why is that not like we've known them as Rowan Hansen forever, and then all of a sudden it was like Ivar, and it's not even his name.
Yeah, it was just completely out of nowhere.
So what's the reasoning?
There is none. It's
Just Vince didn't want it.
the best explanation I've heard for the Viking experience / Viking Raiders was from I'll give a shout out to Bully Ray on Busted Open Radio.
Yeah.
The best reasoning I've gotten is because marketing. And after 9/11, there was a conscientious decision by WWE to not use the word war.
Okay, I
If
knew
you notice,
that.
they've stayed away from it. So going up to the main roster now, it was like, okay, well, we can't use war.
Yeah.
But we also want to market the hell out of these guys. What can you do? Oh, Vikings. Vikings are cool. People are into Vikings. So now I wouldn't be surprised, and you'll see it soon probably. You'll have the like axes and the shields and all that stuff that they can sell for the kids. That I think that was the long-term goal for them. I don't get the whole change of the name to Ivar and how that played into it, but it is what it is. Also, I didn't get why we had to drop it. You want a more Latino presence, but you drop Andrade Cien Almas' name just to Andrade. If you want the more Latino presence, why wouldn't you just keep his full name?
Well, I mean, Vince has a tendency to do that with everybody, though. I mean, Cesaro went from Antonio Cesaro to just Cesaro.
Ali.
Yeah.
Mustafa Ali is just Ali. I don't know. I hate the one name gimmick. It's just become beat down, especially by WWE. I mean, Cesaro I'm not too upset about because, Antonio Cesaro wasn't really the greatest name to begin with.
Right, but it just goes to show, for whatever reason, they just like to shorten up to one names, which...
What was he on the indie scene?
Claudio Castagnoli.
I love that.
And that's exactly why they wouldn't use it in WWE, because could you imagine trying to get Michael Cole to say Castagnoli?
And have Vince just yelling at him the whole time.
The only person on that whole roster as far as commentators who could probably pull it off would be Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah.
Which was exciting when he re-signed.
He is my spiritual animal.
I love Mauro Ranallo. So when I heard he was re-signing to be the voice of NXT, continuing on for at least the next 3 years, I was super excited about that because they really need him. Because he is what JR was to Raw, is what Mauro Ranallo is to NXT, in my opinion.
He's just so passionate when he makes his calls. I mean, he is, he's supposed to be very professional and keep it as much of a newscaster as he can be.
Yeah.
But you can just tell the emotion he has. He's just a fan like everybody else. He just has a microphone in front of him. And I think that's what plays onto him.
I think that I know we're going to talk about it a little later with the AEW stuff, so I kind of get this part of that out of the way. I think the nicest part about AEW, and I've said this, and I'll scream this on rooftops. I've said it all over our programming, and anybody who asks me, if you think WWE is really worried about AEW, you're mistaking. Vince McMahon doesn't really give a damn about some other dime a dozen company who's going to try to knock him off of his throne. The difference is we've seen in the past, if you're a weekend warrior, you're not going to take out Vince McMahon, who lives, eats, and breathes wrestling. However, competition is the best thing that all of us can get, because with competition, that means you'll start to see certain things change. And the fact that Triple H is waiting in the wings, and we know how well he's going to do as far as going into the main role. As soon as he takes over the main roster, I think everybody will be fine. But I think we're rooting for the wrong thing. I think we're all rooting for AEW to do well, to put pressure on for competition, which I want them to do well too, don't get me wrong. But I think we need to really root for the XFL to take off, because then Vince will go away to football and we'll get Triple H sooner.
The scary thing is, because we talked about this on the sports show a couple episodes ago, is the XFL is marketing themselves on network TV. They've got some deals lined up. They haven't announced any players yet, but it does sound like this approach so far, knock on the wall, might actually work to a degree.
Well, this is the nice part about them having their hands in both NBC and Fox.
Yeah.
Because, with their deals across the board, they have their hands in everything. And Viacom, too, to an extent. So, you have, networks across the board working with the WWE, which is an interesting fact in its own. Most things don't cross network lines, and they have, because they're one of the hottest types. So that's why when people are like, well, it's the lowest rated Raw of all time. Okay, that's fine, but at 1.95, you're still looking at 1.95 million viewers or households live. That's just live. That's not counting the people streaming on Hulu, people watching clips on YouTube, people, the 3, 5, and 7 numbers. That's not counting any of that. That's just counting live. 1.95 million households is still tuning in, which is better than anything else on television. And that's why they got over $1 billion.
Now, do you think Vince cares about the ratings?
I think that the model has changed, and I don't think he does anymore.
Yeah.
Because really, now ratings don't mean as much as they did back in the Monday Night War days. Because back then, people had to watch. I mean, think about it. You had to either watch or record on your VCR.
Yeah.
So either way, it was still triggering as a watch live, even if you're recording on your VCR, because it was tuned to that channel.
I have plenty of VHS.
So don't I.
tapes,
I'm with you. I mean, you said earlier you were born in 85. I was born in 83. So it's we're in a similar boat. However, I think now with the change in everything in media and how people are digesting content, you look at the YouTube numbers, and each clip that they put out is 2 million views, 3 million views, and that's clips, and they're making a killing that way. You look at the fact that there's over 2 million people subscribed to the WWE network, and so at $20 or $10 a month, that's $20 million a month that they're clearing, and they're healthy. They're very healthy, so I don't think they worry about that. I'll save the part about the AEW thing for the next segment, which a little tease there, because I like to do that for some reason. It's just my hosting coming through.
Yeah.
You big tease.
Yes. But I think in the long run, what I would say to people who are fans of WWE, it's a hard watch. It's a very, especially storyline wise. But in-ring stuff is very good these days, which is weird to be like, oh man, the in-ring has gotten better. The storylines have gotten bad.
Yeah.
Now, if you cut the show down an hour, would that change things?
Yes, dramatically. I think that it would be a better show. However, they would lose millions of dollars to do so because they've already sold that to advertisers, and that's the bad part. They're in a catch-22. I think when Bruce Pritchard first went back to WWE, he made a statement about that. He was like, "I wish that we could just go back to 2 hours." However, people don't understand the financial burden that is.
Yeah.
Like, we would literally forfeit millions of dollars a week because there's advertisers, the network, USA, wants them to have that third hour. Like, it's all signed into that deal that they have. So they have to do it. That's the only bad part. The worst part about it is I've always made the joke that they should cut an hour off of Raw and add an hour to NXT, and it would be better. And do every other week, do live and taped every other week for NXT.
I love the hour-long NXT.
Well, I like it too, but here's the problem. You have so many stars down there that you barely get to see a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because you could keep the same format that NXT is and bump it to another hour. And trust me, people wouldn't complain because you would still get the same core value, but you would get to see a Velveteen Dream every week. You would get to see Johnny Gargano every week. You would get to see Adam Cole every week. Like, I was checking in the other day. It's been like, other than like a segment here or there, it's been at least a month since Adam Cole's wrestled on NXT television.
Yeah, they've been really spacing them out.
Yeah, and it's just kind of it's horrible because you look at the fact that he's going into a title fight at the next show, which is the 25th show, and he's going into a title fight there, and it's really like there's been no interaction.
Yeah, it's been mild buildup. You see more interaction. They're setting up like the breakup of the Undisputed Era between him and Roddy Strong.
Yeah.
More than you've seen the buildup for him actually getting his title shot.
I also, but I don't know. Me, I like the every week they showcase somebody. Mm-hmm. That's what I appreciate. Like, but yeah, no, I could see a 2-hour show. You get everybody in, but I also appreciate the every week you showcase just a couple of people and you really put a spotlight on them and see what they can do.
Well, I'll just say this. You'll see a 2-hour NXT if a certain other company on a certain night starts making too much headways. And then I guarantee that Fox on Fox Sports Network or one of their other affiliates will be playing NXT for 2 hours on that same night. And then it would be a real competition. And I've said this, and I caught some flack for it, but as of right now, this day, barring any big surprises that we don't know about, which we'll talk some of that, but barring any big surprises, NXT would blow AEW out of the water.
It's a highly debatable question. I mean, honestly, just looking at the rosters on both right now, but I mean, we'll get into AEW just a little bit.
Right. But I'm just saying, if you look pound for pound and developed rosters, like the development of NXT and where you are into the storylines of NXT, you have some of the best personalities in wrestling, period. You have the best babyface in wrestling in Johnny Gargano. You have the best character outside of Bray Wyatt in Velveteen Dream. Then you get into your athletes. You get into your Adam Coles and your Roddy Strongs and the rest of the Undisputed Era, and continue. And pound for pound, they compete very well together. But the difference is we've known all of these people in NXT way longer than we've known 90% of the roster in AEW.
It's like DC and Marvel.
That's correct. It really is. But one's the up and coming part of AEW. Outside of that, the top 6 guys in AEW, people don't know the rest of that roster.
No, they're going in with a lot that is unknown, but it's known if you're a hardcore wrestling fan. But to appease to the mainstream audience, it's a whole different story. But going in with that, though, they're going to be having the Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up this Sunday as we're recording.
Ooh, I'm almost knocking things over. Yes, Money in the Bank is coming up. I'm a fan of Money in the Bank every year.
All right, break down the card.
Oh, wow. There's 11 matches on the card, so I don't know if I'm going to go through the whole card. But in your Money in the Bank matches, you have the men's Money in the Bank featuring Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, Ricochet, which that'll be amazing in its own. I don't think he'll win, but that'll be an amazing jaunt there. You have, is Elias in that? No, Elias is wrestling Roman Reigns in a match, which Roman must win. Like Hogan must pose, Roman must win. So
you got Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre. That's my pick to win.
Oh, mine too. I would say
Randy Orton and Andrade and Ali.
Yeah, so it's a good match. I think the 3 favorites to win, in everybody's opinion, is McIntyre, Corbin, and Andrade. Andrade's kind of the long shot. McIntyre would be the smart bet because he's the future, as far as most people can tell, is in the heel in the sector. But right now, you got to be honest, nobody gets more heat than Baron Corbin, whether it's for good reasons or bad reasons.
He's getting near X-Pac level when X-Pac was in his
I was
his
about
prime.
to say that. He's got the go-away heat.
That nuclear heat. He's almost at the level of Tommaso Ciampa heat. Only Tommaso Ciampa had the heat for the good reason.
Yeah, he was on the good side
of
of
the bad part. The women's match got messed up because Alexa Bliss is out, so Nikki Cross is in.
Which let me jump in for a second because you mentioned Nikki. They've now tweaked her character around, so she's not, she's not crazy. She's not fully crazy. She's like, can I say tweener crazy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, she's like borderline. Yeah, so she's coming off in some promos like calm, speaking coherently, having those conversations. Before she just would just go ramble and just go completely crazy and just do whatever she wanted, which was awesome. But she's almost played like I don't even know how to describe it, just other than just like almost like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. She's almost doing like that, almost to an extent like a pretty girl, like in the back, and then when she gets in the ring, she goes a little nuts. Everybody's getting a little more comfortable here.
Yeah. Let's get comfortable. Take my shirt off.
Wrestling tends to do this to me where I lean back and start, But it's an interesting dichotomy with Nikki Cross. I don't really know what they're doing with her.
Yeah,
at this point in juncture, I don't agree with most of it, but I don't know what they're doing.
I don't think they know what they're doing with it.
I don't think they know. Yeah, I have to agree 100%. Outside of like your top guys, I don't think WWE knows what they're doing.
Okay, going back to the Viking experience, I read something, I think it was Bleacher Report, that said the reasoning behind the name change was just because Vince just wanted to do it.
That could be. That could also be
quite
a reason.
possible.
Because I thought the same thing. Though I heard the war thing, I think on Bruce Pritchard's podcast. He talked about
it's
that.
It's one of the words that they've banned a while ago. I mean, but I don't know. Maybe he is fond of changing everybody's gimmick when they move to the main roster. So there's that.
It's like, Vince, why do you want to do this?
It's almost like he wants to put his
Still.
stamp of approval, even though Triple H is the one who's kind of developed and nurtured him and raised him up. So, like, in that aspect, I guess I see it because Vince is, obviously the mastermind behind everything. Yeah. And he wants his hands on, all the products going out that represent WWE. I get that, but it's also like, it just feels like so forced and unneeded that it's like you don't realize what you have, but you want to put your stamp on it to get some credit for it.
Yeah.
The worst part about the women's Money in the Bank match, though, is this lackluster as hell. So you have Nikki Cross now, who's taking over for Alexa Bliss. You have Bayley, you have Natalya, you have Naomi, you have Carmella, you have Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose, Ember Moon. So the favorite to win this match, I mean, I ended up picking Nikki Cross just because I don't know what they're doing with her, and I'm like, I just don't know where they're going. The favorite to win this match is either Mandy Rose, who it looks like she's in line for a big push, or Dana Brooke getting bumped for a returning Sasha Banks.
Gus, who you got on that?
I do like Mandy Rose. That is the favorite. Like
That
makes
is the clear
sense.
cut favorite.
Yeah,
at this point,
and that makes sense out of all of them.
For some reason, I'm saying Dana Brooke's going to win it. Don't. I'm serious. I know it sounds crazy, but she's been doing.
What do you want?
She
Because I want a piece.
She has been doing this like resurgence, like almost like give Dana a chance, and they were doing give divas a chance way back when.
Yeah.
But she's kind of inherited then. She's like, I haven't gotten opportunities. I haven't done this. And I thought, like, in my opinion, they brought her up too early from NXT.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
And she was not ready. Like, because when she was teaming with Emma down in NXT, like, they were on fire. And they were definitely...
Well, Emma got hurt.
Right.
Yeah. And that ruined everything.
Yeah, and then they just brought her up, and then she was, like, Charlotte?
She was Charlotte's lackey.
Yeah,
for a while.
which, I mean, and then she just never got out of it.
And then she became the worldwide lackey as well.
Yeah. But I have this odd feeling that it's going to be just out of nowhere.
The memo that's gone around and rumored to go around, but I mean, it's pretty much been confirmed by a lot of the talking heads / people involved in WWE, is that after last year, they feel like the Money in the Bank became very lackluster. So they're trying to restore prominence to Money in the Bank. To the briefcase itself, to being Mr. or Mrs. Money in the Bank. Because obviously, as we know, Braun Strowman had a real rough whatever with it the year before. Baron Corbin lost his Money in the Bank because he got in trouble in the back, so they just punished him by getting rid of it quickly instead of it showcasing. Of course, last year, Alexa Bliss cashed in same night, and it wasn't really to much fanfare. It was just like, oh, here, we need to take the belt off of Nia. So it was like one of those worthless changes because they didn't have to have the change, and it was too early, if you will, for Ronda Rousey. But they're saying that's what the rumor is. But then I look at the card or all the people that are on the women's one, and I go, well, unless they know something we don't know, which is possible, there's nobody on there where I'm like, man, except for Alexa Bliss before she got injured. Again, there's nobody on there where I'm like, man, they're going to bring prominence back to that Money in the Bank. On the men's side, there's a few names. Like, you could actually technically have any of those guys win. I think it's too early for Ricochet, but you could technically have any of those guys win, and I'd be like, okay, I could see them having a Money in the Bank.
Sami Zayn would be a lot of fun.
Sami Zayn would be, especially because the promos he's cutting are
Yeah.
amazing. And if he wins by some kind of hooker crook thing where Braun Strowman wrecks everybody and he just sleazes his way up and wins it, I would pop huge for it. I still think Drew Mac's going over.
Let me throw this curveball in for it. If Sammy does win, and let's say Kevin Owens does beat Kofi for the title, how much would it be absolutely crazy to see Sammy cash in on Kevin?
Oh, I think that's where you go.
Yeah.
I don't think Kevin's winning. I think in the WWE Championship match, Kofi's going to go over. I don't think Kofi's going to be champion forever, but I think he'll carry the belt till SummerSlam. Kind of do like the Benoit trick where you carry it to SummerSlam and then drop it to somebody there.
Man, I was going to go really dark.
Oh,
No.
I'm not going to.
Don't go that dark.
Don't go
I
that
won't
dark.
go that
But
dark.
rounding out your title matches, I mean, you have AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, which is a dream match anywhere. So that match alone will make it worthwhile to watch this pay-per-view.
Was that too soon?
Yes and no, because I feel like they're going to get mileage out of probably getting those guys together a few times, and this will be a good opening time to get them together. I feel like coming out of the Superstar shakeup, the one cool thing would be this match, only because it was like, oh man, this is a dream match out of that shakeup.
Yeah.
So they had to do at least one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I feel like they made the right choice because now, no matter what happens, you can always come back. Because nobody's going to get tired of seeing Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Right. That could be a long year program if they wanted to.
They could do multiple years if they want.
I just feel like we're going to have a BS finish.
Probably.
As long as it's not another nut kick.
I'm thinking...
I'm sorry. Like the whole thing with Shinsuke and then Daniel Bryan wins the same way. It's like, stop.
No, because they're going to keep Seth as the white face baby face. He's going to be white meat baby face all the way. So he won't. The only thing that could possibly happen that I and I'm not giving much credence to, but there's a rumor out there is that depending upon this deal that Brock Lesnar signed, whether Brock comes out and just wrecks both of them and resulting in a no contest. So you have a tremendous match. He comes out, wrecks both of them. Call it a day. It could happen. Nobody knows the details of the contract he signed. I assume because he signed like a 2-year deal that means just 3 more appearances and all of them are Saudi Arabia. That's what I assume.
I like Lesnar, but I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I think people
Let's move
will.
on.
I will give this. I think people will be all right with Lesnar if he's out of the title picture. If you use him as the attraction that he is and never give him the belt, I think we'll be fine. I think if you start giving them the belt again, it's a bad news. But the biggest story, I think, of this pay-per-view, before we switch gears, is the fact that Becky Two Belts will be defending her belt not once but twice, and potentially a third time. And I've called this as my pick, that if you wanted to cash it in, it would be perfect. I would have her win 3 times. I would have, she just beat Ronda Rousey in the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania. You beat the baddest woman on the planet. That's how you're booking her. You come into this, you beat Charlotte Flair, you beat Lacey Evans, who nobody's high on anyways, as far as fans go. Yeah. The office is, but no fans are. And then whoever wins Money in the Bank tries to cash in. She beats them just so she looks uber strong going forward because she's Steve Austin.
It'd be like Bret Hart.
Yeah,
and King of the Ring.
Crowner. She's and I the dichotomy. It finally hit me when we were on 3FNW this past week, was I started comparing the fact that we always hear the comparisons to Becky Lynch and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, obviously, they're 2 different characters, but yeah, there's certain grassroots. The fans want it. The machine's holding her back. That's the storyline. Well, you add in the fact that Charlotte Flair and their rivalry is actually really good, and the fact that Charlotte's kind of The Rock. Because remember, when Rock and Austin were going at it, The Rock was the people's champion. Remember, he got the people's champion moniker because it was a corporate thing. It was a heel gimmick because they were pushing him. He was the machine's chosen one. And then you had Steve Austin, who was the fans' chosen one, and they were throwing every obstacle. So basically, they've done this now with 2 talented women, with Becky Lynch and Charlotte, and it's netting them money. There's a very realistic world where Becky Lynch main events another WrestleMania.
Oh, without question.
Even next year could go on last. By main event, I mean going on last. I'm not talking about, the fact that there's 10 main events allegedly. I'm talking about go on last, the one main event spot. Any real wrestling fan from back in the day, we all know there is only one main event, and that is, you can call it special attraction matches. I don't care. You can have 5 special attraction matches on a card.
Final match.
But the final match is the main event. The women main evented WrestleMania. And I wouldn't be surprised if this year or next year the women don't main event WrestleMania again, because Becky Lynch does not seem like she's slowing down. The crowd wants Becky Lynch.
And does Ronda come back?
Yeah.
Eventually, yes.
I think that's your main event next year, Becky and Ronda.
Okay, so WrestleMania, I was just screaming up a storm in a negative way because I read something. I read something that made sense when Asuka lost the belt. Everyone was confused by that, and I read, I think it was probably Bleacher Report again, how Vince wanted all the WWE 4 horsewomen to have the belts at the very end. That was like the last shot of WrestleMania. Like Becky have a belt, Sasha and Bayley have the tag team belts, and Charlotte have a belt, and they were all going to stand in the ring together. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, and I like that reasoning. And that didn't happen. And I'm like, why didn't that happen? Or was that just
3 reasons that I think it didn't happen. Mind you, this is my opinion alone.
Yeah.
3 reasons why I didn't think it happened. First of all, it became too much money in the bank, pun intended, for Charlotte and Becky. You can't have them be friendly because there's a lot of money to be made off of that feud.
okay?
So that's the first thing. I think that got in the way. I think there was very much a play for it, but then you're like, well, we'd be dropping a lot of dollars to have them be friendly because if you remember after SummerSlam, it failed miserably when they tried to do that again. So what they're going to do this time is we're going to avoid that at all costs. And it's money. It really is. Not to mention, too, I think they wanted to make Becky look super strong. Yeah. So, they know what they have. There hasn't been this reaction to a wrestler, not male, female, either or. There really has not been a reaction for a sustained period of time like there has been for Becky Lynch since Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. Think about it. She pops crowds like you would not believe. And you could say, yes, Kofi got the biggest pop at Mania. I was there live. He did. He got an amazing pop, especially when he was coming out. The Kofi Mania chants were going. When he won, I have a video on my phone of the pop. It was amazing. But that was one night. And yes, he's still getting a pop, but he's not getting the Becky Lynch pop. Becky, all she has to do is walk out of the curtain and the crowd goes nuts.
She's their biggest star, without question.
Oh, yeah.
How did you survive 10 hours of WrestleMania?
It was hard. It was harsh. And outdoors, it was cold. I'll be honest with you. It was an amazing experience. It was my first WrestleMania, so it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't trade anything because I loved the section I was in. representing.
Where were you sitting?
We were in 331, so we were up top.
Okay.
But so we didn't get bothered by the lights. So suck that one, people in the 200 sections. They got the lights in their eyes. Actually, I could see very well from, even though it was that very high up, we could see very well. I mean, I watched a lot of the stuff to get real close on the screens, but I could still see the ring and still make out the people in the ring just fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to watch close, the experience was amazing, man. The thing that hurt Mania is I think a lot of people thought the crowd was not into it. It was the sound. I'm watching it back because I have watched it back on video. I remember different than what it was because on video, the sound is loud. When you were there in person, it was loud all the time and it was in different sections. But because there's no roof, it just dissipated. But like literally, we couldn't hear the section like across from us what they were chanting, but we knew they were chanting. We couldn't unmake it out. And just like for us, but every section was doing different chants.
Yeah.
And yes, my section was the section that started the wave. During the Roman Reigns match, we almost made it around the full top. I'm just throwing that out there.
If you could pull that off for Mania, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but going into closing, though, for the segment, I mean, if we could say, like, one statement to describe the current state of WWE, what would you say?
It's I'm not going to use the term, it's not on life support. It's fine. They're obviously making a lot of money. They need to go back to the basics. So I think that where they are is they're trying to overachieve. Maybe that's the word I would use for them. They're overachieving in storylines. And that's been going on for the last, I don't know, good decade. They're going right to, I've always said that the best wrestling philosophy is the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Wrestling fans, think about the best wrestling angle that we've seen on WWE television was Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano.
Oh, yeah.
And it was simple.
Yeah.
It was he turned on me, then he comes back. Now we're feuding. He cost me my career. Then we still fight. It's amazing.
But not even that. Like, Tommaso Ciampa was hurt the whole time, and they kept it kept it interesting.
It's amazing. It goes back. And I think that what people confuse it with is that the Attitude Era, everybody thinks that everything was big and elaborate, and it wasn't. At the end of the day, it was very simple storylines in the Attitude Era even. The ones that worked were simple stories. Like Steve Austin against your boss. Everybody can, relate to not liking their boss. Yeah. Steve Austin against The Rock, like I said before. The Chosen One, the guy. We've all had a job where, this guy is everybody's favorite and you get the crap end of it, but you're the one that's the workhorse and you have to work 10 times as much and you achieve way more than this guy, but he gets all the credit. Yeah. That storyline is ingrained with all of us, and that's what they're doing with Becky and Charlotte, which there you go. They can be successful, but then at the same token, you have a throwaway set of events with Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe. Yeah. That after, I understand he was injured at Mania, but after Mania, you should have just said, you know what, 30 seconds, why is there a return match at Money in the Bank?
I learned a long time ago in high school, when you're in high school, you write those term papers and you're writing like pages and pages and pages. And you get to like the fourth page and it's just nonsense after a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned from a teacher, less is more. And I've tried my best, sometimes I fail to incorporate that with, writing lyrics. Because I'll complicate things and I'll overthink and I'll add things that just unnecessary lines that don't need to be there. And it's less than more. Less is more. And the word that I would come up with WWE, inconsistent.
Oh yeah.
There's no consistency with storylines and with they'll just give up on a character out of nowhere. Like after an audience will be like, we like this, and all of a sudden they're gone the next week.
I agree.
What are you doing, old man?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
There's so many questions going on with it too, and going into Money in the Bank. Hopefully something is resolved, and maybe they move forward, and maybe the product kind of does a swing around. Because like I said, the in-ring work has been great, but the storylines, except Bray Wyatt and Sami Zayn, have just been like all over the place. Now you guys are doing a contest on 3FN.
3FNW, yes, we're doing a contest. Go to our if you hear this time, go to our Facebook page, or you can do it on Twitter. It'll be a little harder because of characters, or send it to our email, which is 3fatnerdspod@gmail.com. Basically, just give us your picks for Money in the Bank. We're only doing the ones that were listed before, so if something surprise comes up and you put it in, that's fine, but it won't be counted. It's just the ones that we covered on the show. You can pick all of our picks. Now, if you tie or beat us, you and anybody else who does it will be entered in. And this month we're gonna start doing it monthly. Actually, we might do 2 this month technically, because I think we're gonna do something for All In as well. I just haven't announced, or not All In, Double or Nothing, sorry, but I just haven't announced it yet. This time you would win 2 books. One is the Bruce the Barber Beefcake book.
Yes.
And the other is the Kamala book signed by Kamala.
Nice.
Both of those were given to us by Kenny Casanova, the guy who wrote those books.
Awesome.
So I'm very excited to give those away, and we've got some entries already. So keep putting them in there, and like I said, you have a chance. And if you don't beat any of us or nobody ties us, then maybe the next one will get double the gift, double the fun.
Or Double or Nothing, because that's what we're going to segue to next break. You see how we did there?
Oh, okay, you're so good.
But before we go into break, because you can find that information, links to the 3FN network on our hashtag 607 podcast, links on the OchoDuroParlayHour.com, as well as our music section, which we have Walking Distance on. And let's get into a little more Walking Distance to take us to break here. It's Not Your Fault.
This is one of my personal favorite songs that I wrote. It was one of those songs that I figured out, all right, I can be more honest in a song. I can just open up a little bit more. And this one I wrote pretty much for my friends, that were concerned about, what was going on with me in my life, and with, me battling depression issues and other mental health issues. There was a time where things were going right and things were making sense. The wiring in my mind was together, and all of a sudden the cords were just slowly starting to get pulled out. And that's what kind of this song's about. And I love performing the song, and it's one of those songs I get lost in, and it's just one of my favorite songs.
So this is It's Not Your Fault by Walking Distance. You are listening to the ODPH.
Grab my hand, don't let me trip to the dark place in the back of my mind. If I go back a second time, don't think I could walk out alive. Grab my hand, don't let me drift to the dark place in the back of my mind. If I go back a second time, don't think I could walk out alive.
That was It's Not Your Fault by Walking Distance here on a special edition of the ODPH podcast. We have Rich from 3FN joining us, and we're still talking with Gus from Walking Distance. And we're going again with the pro wrestling talk because why not? We talked all about the WWE last segment, but we have to talk about that upstart company, formerly known as a t-shirt company, but hey, they got a network deal?
Technically, they're still a t-shirt company until their first show, which the first show technically isn't until Double or Nothing.
Right, but we got to talk a little AEW, All Elite Wrestling. Now, Gus, what is your thoughts so far on AEW?
Okay. So I listened to an episode of your podcast talking about, you guys were talking about Impact and like everything. And here's my thing. I don't think they're trying to compete with WWE because you can't. You can't. And it's what messed up Impact. And it's what DC messed up with Marvel. You can't compete with something that's been
the machine.
Yeah, you can't compete with the machine. So I love how they're just going to do their own thing and see what happens, and I just taking the risk. But I don't like the whole they're just a t-shirt company but thing because we've seen with All In what they can do, the possibilities. But we'll see. We don't know what they can do with a TV deal and a weekly show and whatnot. But I'm excited. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. There are so many options.
The defense for All In, and I mean it's not an argument because I'll start off how I always start off. I hope that they do amazingly well. I will be watching. Yeah. I will be. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the guys that are there. But I'd be less than honest, especially because having working knowledge of the wrestling business, I'd be less than honest if I was like, oh man, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid everybody else is.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of problems. The one thing I like is when they first came out, first of all, All In, I'll go back to All In real quick. All In, you can't judge on them, and that's why I say it's not their first show, because that was also a Ring of Honor New Japan Pro Wrestling promotion.
Okay,
so it was multiple promotions. Actually, Impact. There was a couple Impact guys on there as well. MLW guys were on that show. Like literally, it was cross promoted across every indie platform, which is fine. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
All In was amazing. Double or Nothing really is their first show, and I'm sure that'll be amazing as well. I'm sure they're going to do a good job. That's. I can't wait till next Saturday. We for anybody who's in the 607 who doesn't want to pay the $50 charge, which we'll get to in a minute, we are having a watch party at Dragon Master Games. 3FNW is hosting it. So 1235 Upper Front Street, Binghamton, New York, Dragon Master Games starting at 7 p.m. I think is when the pre-show is on. Forgive us if there's still people playing Magic the Gathering because it's a game shop. It's our sponsor store, but we are having everybody's invited. Please come by. BYOB. It doesn't matter if you're drinking alcohol. Please be over 21 because obviously. But if you're not drinking alcohol, they do have non-alcoholic drinks for sale, but you still have to purchase. But that's what we're doing for that. And I'm sure it's going to be a great time. However, I really the t-shirt company thing is a fun thing that I just like running with because it was funny when people brought it up.
Yeah,
and they've done very well in the t-shirt market. Don't get me wrong; they've made a lot of money. But it's not making the full investment back. The smartest thing that they did was when they first came out, they came out guns a-blazing, and they really were having a very strong rhetoric about how they were going to take out WWE pretty much. And then I think reality set in. The high of like we're doing this came down, and they went, oh, let's be smart about it. And the rhetoric really quick changed to be, we're an alternative. We're not competition. We're not going to, run against them. They didn't do anything WrestleMania weekend. None of their guys were in New York. The main guys, I should say, because some of the other talent that is signed to them wrestled WrestleMania weekend at smaller shows. But no Cody, no Young Bucks, no Kenny. They didn't wrestle for a good reason. And it was fine. You don't want to take that shot, because then any perceived shot is going to be retaliation from WWE. If you throw rocks at the throne, you're going to ask to get crushed.
Yeah,
I mean that's what happened to Impact. You are going to have a lot of guys who are indie fans. You're going to do well. TNT is this is huge. AEW on TNT in the fall is going to be huge. That's a big time network. It's bigger than any other company's been on since WCW, and that was the network that WCW was on.
Yeah.
I am a little leery of the fire that they used. They used like the old Nitro promo.
It looked like they rehashed the old Nitro at the beginning. At first, because the rumor is it's going to be called Tuesday Night Dynamite.
Yes, because that's what they trademarked.
Right. But that's going to be coming out in the fall. So, I mean, AEW is going to be doing a couple more shows before they go to the weekly show.
Technically, they're doing Double or Nothing. We already know the next 2 shows because there's the
one in Jacksonville.
The one in Jacksonville, and then there's the one at the con in Daytona Beach. And then, I don't know, it depends on when that show is. September is slated for All In 2 or All Out or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, it's got kind of a funny name to it.
It's they haven't completely got, but that's it's happening in September. So there's a possibility the TV show doesn't start until October due to sweeps, and it's not there. That's what network television is. That's why we had to wait for it to be announced. It could either launch in September or October. Nobody's sure. I don't even think they know yet. But either way, it's going to launch. I do believe 2 hours is what I'm hearing. That wasn't made abundantly clear in the press release. It was said that they were going to be given time. Also, we know that all their streaming stuff is going to be on BR Live, so Bleacher Report. I enjoy what Bleacher Report does, but Bleacher Report is also a Warner Media Group, so that's why it's going to be on there. Hopefully that's an easy outlet for people to get. It is also going to be on pay-per-view, regular pay-per-view, and the price point is $50, which has been some backlash on the internet.
Okay, let me just jump in on this one, though. See, this, I understand people are kind of flipping out about that it's quote-unquote so much. But if you think about it, too, WWE Network has kind of spoiled wrestling fans.
I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, for the subscription, you get all the pay-per-views. But if you want to flip it to the UFC, which, I mean, we cover a lot on the ODPH, that it's usually about $70 for a pay-per-view.
I was going to say, I spent plenty of time in this particular area of the studio watching UFC with you. And yes, thankfully we bypassed that the same way I hope to bypass it with other things as I had getting watch parties. I had said that in the 3FNW episode, just rehashing that. Get together with people. Chip in. Support. The best thing you can do for them is support. The reason why it's $50, and I'm going to explain that, is because they don't know how many buys they're going to get.
Right.
Therefore, if they have to maximize their dollar, this is a very expensive undertaking. This is not cheap. You can't come out of the gates like people think that they can and have a WWE network. What would you put on it? What would you put on the AEW network right now? You can't use All In because you're licensed to Ring of Honor and New Japan, and they're not going to allow you. So therefore, there'd be nothing. So you would be paying $10 a month to get this one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and there would be nothing to do other than that, or maybe put Being the Elite and stuff on there, but you can already get that for free on YouTube.
Right. No, the only thing I was going to say is you might, and this is a might, be able to work out a deal like PWG and get some stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe, but that's stretching.
But that's
you
stretch.
get that with high spots.
Yeah, that's the thing. It'd be a stretch to do.
It's a stretch, and that's why I'm saying the defense for that. The reason why there's a WWE network is because Vince has the largest library of wrestling. Even if you didn't want to watch the new stuff, everybody in this room and listening right now who's a wrestling fan, I guarantee would have the network because just all the stuff that's on it is worth having it. Yeah. The fact that I can watch wrestling history, all of the WCW stuff, all of the WWE stuff, all the way back to WWF even, all the ECW stuff, the fact that it's all right there and curated, some of the AEW stuff, some of the WCCW stuff, like everything is there. And that's why Vince bought all those libraries.
Some of the best things that I've done recently was just watching old WrestleManias. Not even just the whole WrestleMania, just picking certain matches and just going back. And just being nostalgic,
right?
And that's it. The network is perfect for that.
And if you think about it, the price point of the network may or may not go up. I've heard levels in the fall, but even if I paid $15 an hour, which is the only rumored going up, and you should still get a $9.99 level, I would pay $15 a month for the network because all the value you're getting from the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Eventually, that's the money winner right there.
Eventually, AEW, if it's successful, and this is why you need to make it successful, might get to that level where they have a network or a streaming service where you can get it cheaper. But to get there, we have to make them successful. So this is why I made the call, and I'll do it on here too, so more people, everybody can hear this. Support. I don't care if you have to do watch parties. I don't care if whatever. Buy it. Do not steal the feed because every one of those buy rates is going to matter to them. It's not like WWE where buy rates don't matter because it's on the network and they don't even do pay-per-view anymore. Or even before then, they were the machine, and even if you stole it, there were still 2 million people buying the pay-per-view. We might not get that many people buying this pay-per-view. So this is going to be, a buy rate is going to mean something to them because we want to keep this company in the hands of the people who are currently curating it, because I think that's where it's going to be better successful. Because if not, it's going to fall into the hands of the people who ruined WCW, because if the worst case scenario happened, Warner Media would probably have to take over that company. and we've seen what they did in the past.
And the finger poke of doom.
Just don't hire Vince Russo.
Vince family.
Vince Russo has been a part of some of the worst stuff, but some of the best stuff because his shoot on Hogan at Bash at the Beach when Jeff Jarrett laid down was the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean,
best thing ever.
WCW's had his moments, but just to go into it with AEW is they need to kind of carve their own niche in the market, and what is going to be the difference than WWE? I think with all the indie talent they have, essentially now under the roof. I mean, it's a good comparison against NXT because that is going to be your next Marvel versus DC, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be okay. Now you have your platform, you can do whatever you want in a certain aspect for AEW, and.
Oh, sorry. I got two opinions. And I'm sorry to cut you off. Two opinions, though, because it goes with it, because I kind of want to hear your guys' take on this.
Okay.
Because I asked it on my show, and I kind of want to hear this take. So tucked inside that press release was not just like the stuff about BR Live and not just the stuff about Warner Media. Tucked into that press release was also the fact of a few things that they are going to be doing in AEW. One of them was kind of considered a shot at WWE because the wording, I don't have it in front of me, so the wording escapes me, but the wording was pretty much, we are going to base this on an athletic competition where things matter, wins and losses matter, and it will be less soap opera-y. What is your take on that, and what do you read into that before I give my take?
I think what I read into that is the storylines are going to be as complex as, like, let's say the Bray Wyatt one right now. That is very, I don't want to say supernatural-esque, but his characters kind of had that Undertaker.
He's the New Age Undertaker. You could just basically say it.
Yeah, he's had that kind of aura around him.
Yeah.
I think with AEW, it's going to be more traditional storylines. I think that, they are going to make a focus to make it have a modern retro feel, if that makes sense. That it's going to seem like when we were all growing up in the 80s, that this is where, okay, if you want a match, you go on and you become the number one contender, and then you work your way up the ladder, and this is where the wins and losses would matter. Right. I think that you're going to see less of the Undertaker-type storylines, and it's going to be more bare-bones basics with a modern twist on it. That's the way I read into that.
Right.
Are we going to get Rest in Penis? Are we going to get that?
Well, right now, the whole Joey Ryan thing is so convoluted because of the Lucha Underground situation.
Well, he's now a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
I hope so, because there's all that the Lucha Underground stuff was just a mess, man. Everybody got stuck in there, people being held hostage. It's crazy.
Is Ivelisse in NXT now?
Had a tryout.
She had a tryout. So okay. I'm assuming her way out of the her way out of Lucha Underground would probably be through WWE because WWE doesn't care about their contract.
Yeah,
okay. And that there's other people who have made that move too, like Impact. They don't care about Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I mean the Lucha thing is just getting worked on in its own right, and it's just like based on individual case. So, but as far as I know, I think Ivelisse got her release from Lucha. So now last I heard she was getting a tryout from NXT.
Okay,
and then Joey Ryan was supposed to be making an announcement next week, I believe, as we're recording.
Hope so.
Stay away from WWE.
No,
there's
no
He'll be
way.
circumcised.
They
will circumcise him.
I don't see him going there by any means. I don't see that. If anything, I would imagine he would go to AEW because I think that they understand with his gimmick and his presentation, they know what they're getting. So it's not going to be reinventing the wheel. They're going to just bring him in and go, okay, what do you want to do? And go from there.
But, the weird part is if you ask me when this all started about the whole Marty Scurll thing, like it's kind of weird that he's not around considering his contract was up with Ring of Honor in April.
Well, I think they're planning on bringing him in.
But they're still doing storyline stuff outside with Ring of Honor, with NWA, with New Japan that all involves, like currently he's over there wrestling in the Best of Super Juniors.
Right.
He's so underrated.
Oh, he is. He's amazing. I mean, I'm assuming eventually he'll be in AEW. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's weird that his contract was up and that was what was holding him back, but yet he hasn't made the move. And I understand, things going on. Of course, we'll get into some things, getting takes on that. But there's one other thing that attached to the wins and losses that I want to get. So they've also attached to that. They said that they're going to be the first wrestling company in the history of wrestling to keep statistics. And what are your feelings about statistics in wrestling? Because I'll tell you mine before I jump in, because I'll give you this, because you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head with what I thought about the other stuff. But I feel like when you keep statistics, one of the nice things about wrestling fans is that we have a short memory. Not in that we don't remember things, because I'm an encyclopedia of things that happen in wrestling. I can tell you names, storylines, and stuff that most people forgot, even things that are tried to be buried. But if we have a memory like, I'll give it an example from now, Kurt Hawkins.
Yeah.
Kurt Hawkins spent the better part of over a year losing 249 times, and then he has a big win at Mania, and the crowd forgot that he was basically a jobber for 249 by choice, by the way, a jobber for 249 days, which I think we need enhancement talent. If you are constantly giving statistics, though, would you ever believe that, first of all, in AEW, if you were given that statistic, he would never have gotten that shot because you go by wins and losses getting a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he would have never gotten that shot. So it would take that real underdog story. And that being there live, even though it was on the pre-show, that was a legit pop. People were excited to see him win and him and Broski win the tag titles. Because New York, was cheap pop there anyways. But B, you were invested in the fact that this man hadn't won in 249 days. So when he finally does, you feel like you're on the mountaintop with him because, let's face it, life, you're not ever, you're not winning all the time in life. We all understand that.
Yeah.
Once again, basically. So you kind of take that away with doing wins and losses, and statistics will always rub that in your face. That's the only thing I'm kind of leery about with what they're doing. We'll see how they do it. I have to see it in practice before I can really judge. But I don't know. What's your take on that? I think it kind of bogs some things down, possibly.
If it's used for storyline, then it's fine. But I feel like in pro wrestling, it never mattered. Mm-hmm. It was just, you gotta it's always been get from A to B.
Absolutely.
And whatever happens in between. So I don't know. If you less is more. Uh-huh. Don't complicate things.
Yeah, I agree.
See,
Keep it simple.
my take on this is like how I personally interpret the UFC rankings. They're there just to say they're there, but they don't mean a thing. And this is what I mean by this. A lot of times you see the UFC will make matches that maybe not have the number one contender up there for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously they do the best fight available with the fighters that are available to fight.
Absolutely.
I sense they're going to do the same thing here because there's some fighters that have not been fighting for a while, but they're still ranked in the top 15.
And I agree with you. I think you're right. Can you keep going?
Yeah, and I think that once you look at it, I think it'll give a legitimacy, I guess, to some fans that really want to see the statistics matter. But I think at the end of the day, it's not going to really matter for wins and losses. I think if it was going to have that much of an impact, I don't think it would go over as well. I think it's going to give some sort of legitimacy to mainstream fans that maybe are going to jump in and see, okay, this is a new product. I have never seen wrestling before. What is this? Oh, okay, this guy is 3-0. Or she is 2-1-1, and well, how does this match up, and where does this go from here? That's where I sense it going. I mean, it's going to be a nice, piece to add to the puzzle.
If they use it that way, that's great. I agree. But I mean, if they go strictly and go too far into it, you can take a lot away from it. Because I mean, I even think back when I was younger, think about Barry Horowitz and when he got his first win.
Yeah,
that was exciting. You got to. There's certain moments in wrestling where that underdog wins, and you're just like, this is why I watch wrestling.
Pat yourself on the back.
I think that's why Kofi Kingston's pop at Mania was so large, because although we kind of guessed that was the direction they were going, at the same time, he was the underdog. Nobody really thought that he was going to ever be WWE champion. And here we are in this wonderful moment where he beats a guy who was at one point in juncture in the same exact boat as him.
Yeah, it's the exact same storyline almost.
Yeah, in the biggest event of the year. This is WrestleMania moment beyond WrestleMania moment when you hit the hoist that belt above your head. And I just worry that if you go too much, if they do what you said, and that's why I'm interpreting it almost the same, but once again, I have to see it in action before I judge it. But if you go too much, where it really, really matters, you're going to lose some of those moments. And I think that one of two things will happen. Either they'll double down and stick to their guns on it, or if that was to happen, I think they would start to slide off of that rule. And that's the nice thing. You got to do ebb and flow with things. You got to figure out where it's going to be.
Here's the thing: we know what pro wrestling is. We know what it is. It's a play. Mm-hmm. It's a play for adults, and I guess kids. But we know it's scripted. We know. So if you're gonna add all the stuff that you have in, I hate using the word real, but boxing or UFC, or it's we know what it is, man. You don't have to do that unless just make me feel something. Make me feel the stakes. That's all I want. With the Kofi match, eventually it's we felt it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just make me feel the moment.
I'll give you a better example too. Take it back a couple years ago when the Shield was on fire. the original run.
Yeah.
And it was the Rhodes family versus the Shield, who got put together out of nowhere.
Okay.
And couldn't be a tag team, and they were going to have to break up. And I mean, the Shield is just taking them to town every night. And then that final moment when Dusty came out with Cody and Dustin, and they came out to his music, and it was like if they lost, they're all getting fired, and just that whole emotion. Well, where was that team ranked prior to that match?
It had to be in the toilet.
Yeah, it's
if
just,
you're going by a ranking system, yeah.
Right, because out of nowhere, this team has a title shot, but nobody was complaining. Because it's the moment. And we as wrestling fans know, the outcome is scripted. The action is real, though.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way to say that. But if it's a scripted storyline, you have an idea, okay, this is not going to be followed right to the letter. I mean, statistics are great and rankings are great, but at the same time, when you try blurring the lines, you're going to tick off a part of your audience, and they're going to tune right out. So I think AEW is going to teeter this line, if at anything.
But and actually, I will switch gears here because I want to talk about Double or Nothing, just because I will be talking about it in the next episode of 3FNW, because obviously they'll come out before it, and we plan on doing a lot with that, where Derek is very much against AEW. He's very much been vocal about how he thinks that they'll be out of business in 6 months, and I mean, I don't believe that, and I told him, with contracts in place, they can't be, but there's some interesting stuff going on at Double or Nothing, and the first thing that I'm going to bring attention to, because we might as well just jump into the big fish here, is Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, which they've had an interesting build to. Unfortunately, I wasn't a huge fan of their match in New Japan. And it feels like the second one, I'm not really feeling that this was the best showcasing, if you will. I understand why you're doing it. You're taking your biggest star. You're taking your top guy, which is Kenny Omega. Don't be mistaken about that. And you're putting against a guy who's proven in the business in Chris Jericho. But I just don't see where the intrigue is there, because I really don't foresee Jericho winning. And not only don't I foresee that happening, Jericho has let himself slide as far as being in shape and stuff to keep up with somebody like Omega.
Okay, have you seen the recent video?
He's amazing on the mic.
But no, the
workout one.
He looks fantastic right now.
Right.
And I think I've heard him talk about that match, I think, with Omega on his podcast, the New Japan match. And it was... That whole card was it was long. It was a long card. So everyone was doing everything that they wanted to do, and they were like, all right, how do we, we can't just do the same moves. We can't do the same spots. So it had to be, all right, we got to do a brawl. We have to have a brawl. That's just going to change things up.
I was fine with that.
Yeah. I think they're two, when it comes to wrestling, those guys are brilliant and they're intelligent. So I think they're going to give us something. Hopefully it is better than the New Japan match. I agree.
The other problem with the New Japan match is obviously we get to compare it to Okada Omega all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't do that.
That's the sad part about it. I mean, I'm guilty of it, but I'm just saying it was weird when they announced this as a match. I was just like, I was more excited about the tag team match than I was about that. But I will say this, the one thing that I've been forewarning AEW fans, or not even fans, forewarning fans period of, is that I hope it doesn't happen this way, but please believe Kenny Omega is the top guy. He is the Roman Reigns, if you will, of AEW. So when people start getting fed to him, I give it time, but I'm telling you, somebody who's comes up through that people really like, and I used it as an example. I don't think it will be this person, but like a Sammy Guevara might capture the hearts of all the fans, and then he's going to get fed to Kenny Omega, and people are going to be upset about it eventually. And I'm like, just prepare yourselves to be upset. And it doesn't mean anything, because Kenny Omega should be on top. It's the same argument that I'll make for Seth Rollins and AJ Styles being on top. If you're the best wrestler on the show, you should be on top.
Yeah. Right.
And that's just how it works.
See, I understand why they made this match, and this is the way when I first heard it announced, I go, okay, this makes sense. And to touch upon what everybody's mentioned thus far, Kenny Omega is the guy in AEW. He is the top wrestler, bar none. But if you're trying to attract new viewers to your product, because let's face it, everybody that knows Kenny Omega has this date circled. Everybody's going to watch the pay-per-view one way or another.
Absolutely.
But for fans that are just strictly the diehard WWE fans, to get them to pay attention, you have Chris Jericho, who we all know from his lengthy runs in the WWE. Well established, one of the GOATs of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
To put him on the card, that's going to attract somebody that wasn't originally going to look at this card. And that's going to make them go, okay, I want to check this out. To a small degree.
How many people watched that first match, too? It's
the carryover between the two, quite a few that will be watching Double or Nothing.
Well, you have to get the New Japan Network.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, you need a
999 yen
to get it.
It's easy. You just go on their website. It's 999 yen, which works out, which actually works out to be, I think it was because I have it. It's like $8.86 a month.
And then eventually, and I don't know who owns or has Access TV on their.
Locally, I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, if you have DirecTV, because
if you have DirecTV,
DirecTV you do, but
so I think that plays an effect too. It's like how many people did watch that match. It's like there could be new eyes to that match. As well. So,
and that was where I was going with that too. You're going to have new eyes here because you want to try establishing some stars that the mainstream audience knows. Because, like I say, we all watch indie wrestling, we all watch Impact, New Japan, and so forth.
But this is the argument that I'm going to make here because this is actually kind of one of the things I've been thinking about lately. If I was booking this card, would have changed it. I would have done Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page and Pac versus Kenny Omega. I feel like Pac versus Kenny Omega, you get the fact that Neville was in WWE, so people do recognize him. B, he's phenomenal and at the top of his game right now. Unbelievable to beat Kenny Omega, possibly. And this way you could get that big match you need to come out of the gate. And then you could build Jericho, and then Jericho could beat a Hangman Page. It's not going to really affect Hangman Page's career to lose to Chris Jericho. And I just feel like I almost feel like that's just my booking, but I'm all right with it. Obviously, I'm going to be a fan either way because I think Hangman Page will do a great job with Pac as well.
I do like that, though.
Yeah.
I like your opinion on that one.
That I think that would have been, especially because if you got to go all out, look at this card. I mean, I'm just going to skip some things we can talk about.
Yeah,
but like I just said, Hangman Page versus Pac is on this card. Kenny Omega versus Jericho is on this card. The Young Bucks defending the AAA championship versus the Lucha Bros is on this, which will be phenomenal. Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. Once again, Cody Rhodes, for the second time that they've gone out, all in to Double or Nothing in the emotional match of the night because the build to this has been phenomenal. Dustin Rhodes showing everybody why he's phenomenal on the microphone. This build did not disappoint me at all. So you have just with that's your top guys pretty much on this card as far as, and I'll get into the other ones, but with those top matches, if you flopped that around, like I said before, I feel like this would be the strongest card ever in the fact, and I know they're trying to build the Pac because I think Pac is teaming with a couple guys to take on the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega at the Daytona show.
I believe so.
I can't remember who off the top of my head, sorry, but I do believe it's the Elite versus them. So I do believe they're going to build the Pac, and I would assume Pac versus Omega will probably take place at All In 2, All Out, whatever they're calling it, because they haven't been too specific. But I mean, this undercard, I love the idea of the casino battle royale.
Yeah.
I love this fact that it's going to be 4 groups of 5 coming into the ring, and then whoever draws the Joker card's number 21, and the winner gets a shot at the AEW World Title when whoever's decided to be on that. I love that. And the fact that the belt was there when they made the announcement, but covered, so nobody's seen the belt still, but the belt exists and it's there, is kind of cool. I don't know if that belt's going to be on the line at this show at all. I don't know if the last minute we're going to find out that maybe Omega Jericho's for that belt.
I thought, and I could be wrong about this, I thought it was Page and Pac for that belt. Now, I could be. I could be wrong. So
it could be, but it's not. I don't see on their official release even it doesn't say that. So I'd be all right with that too. I'm just saying, even though in that case, when we were talking about the strongest match for that belt would be Omega Jericho, and then I can see Jericho winning.
Yeah.
That's the funny part. If the belt was on the line, I can see Jericho winning, probably by nefarious means, but I can see him winning because I can see having him be your first champion and not giving the belt to Omega. So that way, even though he's your top guy, he has to make a little bit of a climb.
Yeah.
And of course, because Jericho's not going to take that fight back. Jericho's like, okay, well, we're going by records here. You're 0-1. I'm 1-0. I don't have to fight you. And you know that would be kind of something sniveling that Jericho
he would
do.
so do it.
And I love thinking that could happen. But if it's Page against Pac for the belt, that's also great because if Pac takes the belt and you do build towards Omega, Pac at All In, All Out, 2, All Out, whatever, that would be great.
It's great to see the growth of Adam Page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I heard him also on, I think it was Jericho's podcast, his backstory with, I think, his family being in the circus.
Yeah, he's got
It's a great backstory, and just seeing him where he's come from with ROH and to now, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, you're talking about somebody that just really has taken advantage of the opportunities given to him and just really worked his way up. And
just a good dude.
Yeah.
too.
I mean, yeah, you can't help yourself but just root for him.
Yeah.
Just with everything going on. And like I say, I think that's going to be the main event. And just to kind of touch upon what you're saying, I don't think you could have came out with this card doing Omega versus Pac. My only reason with that, and I'm just sticking to you're trying to get a bigger audience, who was a bigger star in WWE? Jericho. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I think this one is just based on, okay, we got to make our best impression. Let's get the biggest names and the biggest matches we can. But I do think, though, down the road, and
we get there.
Yeah.
We're definitely going in that direction.
Yeah.
But Hangman Page, the argument there that Hangman Page and Jericho, especially if you put a belt on the line, if you will, that could be a case where you make that kid no matter what.
Yeah.
Because even if he loses the match to Jericho, you can still be like, man, he put up a fight against one of the greatest of all time.
Right.
So it makes the kid. And I'm not saying Pac won't. Pac's an amazing in-ring worker. I'm sure he'll make Hangman Page look like $1 million. But I just think that there's something about me I thought. But even the undercard looks strong. I mean, you have talking about female wrestling. You have Aja Kong involved in the 6-man. I'm not even going to try to name all of the Japanese wrestlers who are in this 6-man tag match because I cannot manage to do all their names. But Aja Kong is a legend. If you don't know who she is, check her out. The fact that that's on the card, also with a triple threat match. Sorry, I thought it was a 4-way for me.
Yeah.
But a triple threat match with Dr. Britt Baker, Kylie Ray, and Nyla Rose. There you go.
That's an incredible match.
Oh, that's an incredible match. Also, you're going to get some, you get the controversy there a little bit because, Nyla Rose being the first trans women's wrestler. So it's a little bit of an opening up. But I mean, it's just good press. And in pro wrestling, I'm going to save the argument for anybody at home. It's pro wrestling. It's fine. Okay. I don't want to get into that whole go down the road where people, I love the fact that the best friends got a match instead of being in the battle royale as they were upset about it.
And how they've been building on that in BET.
Oh yeah,
or
absolutely.
BTE rather.
And especially because Angelico and Jack Evans. Oh, like talk about signings that came out of nowhere that I was like, heard them and I was like, thank you. This is amazing. This is amazing. And then of course you have the Chinese contingent led by SEMA versus SoCal Uncensored. So SCU.
Yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, this is a great card.
Scorpio Sky.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love Scorpio Sky.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and his return to Wrestle Circus this past week. Oh, amazing.
I love Scorpio Sky, but there's tons of good stuff on this roster.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even the pre-show, Sammy Guevara versus Kip Sabian.
2 young guys up and coming. I feel like that could be a make or break moment for those guys, especially getting a spotlight. I also think that you're going to end up running into the Battle Royal is going to steal the show again. Because the over budget battle royale on All In was amazing, and this casino battle royale looks great, and there's tons of names in it, like guys who mean a difference. I mean, MJF's in it, and they're building him as something in this company. There's a lot of guys.
And let me just say this: would you not doubt seeing a John Moxley or a Barney Skrull?
Well, that's what I was going to go into. I think that we're going to get the Bucks are teasing it, and I do believe we're going to get a big surprise. I don't know what the surprise is. I'm assuming it might be Moxley. The only thing that makes me think it might not be Moxley is it seems like he's interested in being a free agent for a little bit, according to his verbiage. But all that can change.
Yeah, it could be all smoke screen.
It could all be a smoke screen. But once again, he could also mean it because it seems like for his reasoning of leaving WWE is a little strange because he was in a top spot. And he just didn't like the direction. So I feel like it's more of an artistic freedom. So I don't know if he has the taste in his mouth. I've also heard that rumor being tossed around that Impact might be knocking on his door. And I think Impact, in my opinion, the most exciting thing for me in the world would be for him to sign with Impact, because that means we can see on a major national level a Sami Callihan versus John Moxley feud, which we saw in CZW and it was phenomenal. And in Impact, they will let them do kind of a deathmatch style because we've seen it with Pentagon and Sami.
Yeah.
My Lord, take my money now, all of it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why for selfish wrestling fan wants, I hope he goes to Impact for just that reason.
Can we just say, for closing though, I mean, how great is it that we are now seeing indie wrestling and just the emergence of other companies
It's
in this dawn right now with MLW and Impact, which, I mean, we haven't even really touched upon too. I mean, their pay-per-views have been phenomenal.
They're hitting grand slams at Impact since they're not on national. They're on television, but they're not on national television anymore. They're mostly going off at Twitch, which is fine. But their programming, top notch. They have the top female wrestler in the world outside of Becky Lynch. Okay, with Tessa Blanchard, killing it. They have Sami Callihan, who re-signed, which surprised a lot of people. People thought that Callihan was either going to go back to the Machine or go to AEW, and instead he re-signed with Impact and doubled down. You know, I wouldn't be surprised because of the friendship and everything if you didn't see John Moxley in Impact. They have a shot. I'm not saying I still think that he's going to be the surprise at Double or Nothing, but I wouldn't count out having a shot.
Will he physically be there, or will it be like a Jericho in New Japan? Will it just like a...
I think if he makes the Impact, and if they're smart, which they usually are, I think that he has to interfere in a match. There is 3 matches that he could interfere in. One of them, and I'm going to go in order of likelihoods. Hangman Page and Pac. Reason being just because it's a big, high-profile match.
Yeah.
2, Omega Jericho. And the reason why is it could be a way for Jericho to win and get Mox tons of heat. The most likely one that I think, because of the emotion, Rhodes versus Rhodes. And he shows up to screw Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes representing WWE, if you will, and Cody representing the new era, and he's now siding there. It would make sense. And I think that that's a good way to put Cody over as a heel because this company needs a clear-cut heel. I mean, Jericho they need another one.
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes is a phenomenal heel. And the only way you're turning him heel is if you do something really, really messed up.
Right.
And Dustin Rhodes is loved so much that'd be the spot. And I don't think you're going to get he might be able to. Cody's talented, beyond talented. But I don't know how easy it's going to be just in a one-on-one match to get that heat. But if he has somebody screw his brother for him to win, the heat's there.
Yeah.
Not to mention he's the Office. The heat. That's why I think that's the most likely. But I also would say the Omega Jericho thing is a possibility. Another good way for Jericho to win a match and then go, ha, 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 I beat you. I'm not fighting you again because our records don't match. And also a way to get him established and put him right in a top-tier match with Kenny Omega eventually. And that would be a different style for Omega to wrestle because Moxley wrestles a particular brand, especially if we're going back to indie Moxley in opposed to WWE Dean Ambrose.
There's just so many different ways to go with it. I mean, it's going to be a great week for wrestling and a great week, too, with the show coming up because this Sunday, as we said, Money in the Bank is happening. May 23rd, the big walking distance show down at Galaxy, and then May 25th, Double or Nothing.
I was going to point out Double or Nothing, CM Punk.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
just do it.
Under a mask.
I want to point this out. I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say it on here. And I don't know. Trust me, it's not a rumor that he's going to be there because I don't think he is.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Khan family and I want this to go off without a hitch, buy all out. Buy the time you hit TV. Give that man whatever he wants. Whether it's $5 million, whether it's $10 million. I don't care if it's $10 million a year. That sounds ridiculous. But if you want to make an impact and you want to make people change a channel and to watch your product and really get eyes on your product, the only person you can hire is CM Punk. And that will be my argument. And the reason why is he's the only person whose name is chanted in every arena across this country. To this day. Nobody else is going to move the needle that will jump over. The only other people that would move the needle that much would be like an AJ Styles, and he's doubled down in WWE. Seth Rollins ain't going nowhere. Roman Reigns ain't going nowhere. John Cena's not going anywhere. Randy Orton, he said he would take offers, but that's only because it'll get him more money with WWE. He ain't going anywhere, trust me. There's no other major player that would move the needle as much as Punk would that they're able to get. So you need to offer him everything. That's my opinion on closing on that.
All right. We hit you with a lot about wrestling. Gus, do you have any final comments for pro wrestling?
It's a great time to be alive as a pro wrestling fan. There's just, we need variety. I was under the WWE bubble for so long that through other podcasts and through just word of mouth and, talking to guys like you guys, there is so much out there. I love variety, and I'm excited that's why I have hope. I have hope that AEW is going to be fantastic, and it's just going to be. I don't want it to compete with WWE.
No.
I don't want it to do your own thing. That's what messed up Impact, and they tried to compete with WWE, and you can't. It's established. It's the Empire. You can't defeat that Death Star. You can't. There's no torpedo to take it down.
No, there isn't. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think we're all rooting for AEW. And I mean, it's just such a great time to be a pro wrestling fan because there's so much variety out right now that if you're not into the major product of WWE, you have options to watch and it's still just as good, if not better. So that's all we got for this edition of the ODPH podcast. But I'm going to let our guests give their final shout outs. Rich, what's going on 3FN? How can they find you?
Easy to find us. We are online, Facebook, 3 Fat Nerds Podcast, Facebook and Instagram at 3 Fat Nerds Pod, hashtag 3FN, hashtag 3FNW. Also, shout outs, 8122productions.com. That's where we're the overall. And the other brethren I got to get in there is I co-host Horror Zone 607 with Mike C. That's awesome. It's all about horror. So check us out on Facebook, Horror Zone 607, at Horror Zone 607 on Instagram and Twitter. I hope I got all the plugs in there. Keep your eye on the future. There's a big move coming up for us.
Hey, details. So definitely keep it locked for 3FN. And Gus, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't you give us final play? What is going on May 23rd? Sell it.
May 23rd at Galaxy Brewery. We are going. My band, Walking Distance, is going to play with Tom Jolu, Second Suitor, and the almighty handsome band of Iron Chic all the way from my hometown stomping grounds, Long Island, New York. We have new music, an EP out called Call Me When You Get This. It's on Bandcamp. It's going to be on Spotify soon and iTunes and all that jazz. Find me on Instagram under How Is Gus Doing? And right now, I'm not sure.
It's an honest answer, folks. But you can...
And you can find me at therapy 2 times a week. And
we have the links for everybody involved here with the show on the OchoDuroParlayHour.com website. If you go for music, you can find all the links to find Walking Distance. If you go to hashtag 607 podcast, you can find all the links for 3FN.
And I'm on OkCupid.
And Gus is on there too. So definitely hit him up, let him know. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show this week. Definitely appreciate you having on. I am your host, Ken M. We're going to take you out with some more Walking Distance. Now, this is off the new EP.
Jerry and Ginger, baby.
So thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Hashtag ODPH Podcast. We'll see you next time.